that, Brett?
Um, there's a couple points. Number one, new maps not ready for massive, like, efficient, optimal use. If it can provide any value, there is a public alpha version of it, which doesn't need to be licensed or shared under any conditions, and it has the ability to share information only with certain users that you want to share it with. As far as the back end code and developing it, that's something I would have to be a bigger synergization and co-creation between the fields.
Cool. All right. So I feel somewhat the same with Tribe Match. So this is all about, creating a way to work together. And if we are on the actual exact same team and we're able to like my platform brings in money, your platform helps distribute it. For example, hey, let's just do it together. Let's figure out how we're going to do all this, and let's just do it. If we have the exact same vision, and you know what I mean, because it's going to take a lot of us obviously to do anything against the with what we're up against in the banking industry and everything else that's going on right now. So Nectar is sort of like, it's an interesting platform that we came across at Tribalize, and I've got it on my phone. I probably can't show it to you on this thing, but according to Vishal, which I kind of wish he was on this call, but he hasn't gone through our process yet. He says it's not really built. It's built on a platform that's really easy to just plug and play everything. And for some reason, for him, he didn't like that. I thought it was cool because it helps us maybe get things done quicker and easier, which is what is a big thing we need right now. It's kind of like, how do I explain it? It's a little bit of a social media. It's a little bit of a matching. It matches people, and then it houses all these different apps. You can house different apps. So it's on there as a question mark. I haven't got a hold of the owners, and to be honest with you, it's just on there. Let's call it what we want for now. And this would be, okay. What else? Do we have anything else in our network? Is there anything else that's a tech platform that we could merge? Like, we don't have anyone on our team that's like working with Ubuntu or New Earth Nation or yet, or COEO. So right now, I think all we have is Tribe Match and NewMap. Is that right?
Well, like, I think I need to take a step back and make sure I'm clear about the functionality we're looking for. Like, for me, Nectar, COEO, everything, nothing has the functionality that we need as a new paradigm, and we want. That's why we're building the Infinite World game, and there's Holochain, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we know that. So if we need functionality like coherent messaging, project management, et cetera, for me personally, the wisest thing to do is simply use tools that are out there working now and have everyone agree that that's the ones we're using. And for people that don't know how to use those tools, we have to make sure that people that do know how to use them are really helpful in helping people to understand how to use them. Because none of them, Nectar, and I'm assuming Tribe Match, I can't say because I haven't seen it in full, and NewMap and Nectar and none of them do actually provide the functionality like literally tomorrow for what we need to like project manage and to chat and to synchronize, etc. That's my perspective.
To me, it seems so easy. I'm not a tech guy, but it's crazy to think we don't have what we need with all the Googles and all the people in the world that are like creating software. They couldn't create what we need. I don't see it as that difficult. I'm actually very surprised that we don't have what we need. I hate Slack. I hate Slack. I can't stand it. It's too confusing for me. It's
I'm done with Slack. I haven't been on Slack for a year. I've finished my Slack experience.
I'm loving Google Docs for now, but it's obviously missing some things. It's not bad though, because you can direct people to certain places. So the point here, what I was thinking is that we have a membership model where we can all coexist on a platform, because the adoption rate, these things are never going to take off and fight against Google and these things. And it's not, we're going to have some of our group on Nectar and some of our group on Facebook and some of our group on, Instagram and some, and so getting us all on one page, even COEO is great. It's in our field, but they haven't customized to what we want at all. And they're not sharing ownership, or they're not doing any kind of like co-op model. And there's no way to really talk to them and ask for what we want. So they're probably one of the closest, them and New Earth Nation, to platforms we could jump on and use together. But we need a little bit more cooperation. Tiana?
But does COEO and New Earth Nation provide any of the project management type stuff as well? I haven't been on them in a while.
They don't.
I mean, I know Matt. I know the guy from COEO. I mean, I certainly could send him an email. But if you're talking about the shared platform from the cooperative space, then we need to continue waiting and getting synergized. So some of our platforms can be that, because we have the solution. It's just taking time. So I would stick with something like Basecamp or something, like where we can like update a message and share tasks and stuff personally. And I would forego the idea of creating a shared platform that everyone is actually like owner of, because I don't know, unless someone has a solution, I don't see how we would do that.
I was thinking a membership model. Tiana, you had something though you want to say first?
I just had a question about NewMap and the alpha. I was wondering, because
You're right.
I'm not really that familiar with it, if it's kind of like contains the whole system that we're looking for, but it's just not ready. Would that be usable for project management and the social part? The alpha version. You're on mute. You're on mute, Brett.
Guys? Hello?
Yes.
I need 5 minutes. I'll be back. Just carry on for a sec. Sorry.
So maybe you know the answer to that question, Josh, because you're maybe a little bit more familiar.
What's that?
I was just asking if NewMap was a whole system design that included the social platform as well as the project management.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
I
mean, in other words, it might be worth it to try what Brett was suggesting if it includes a combination of all of those things.
Yeah, I don't know enough about NewMap either yet, and it's still a long ways away from being finished, and it needs some major funding. I'm not familiar enough. So I think what I'm getting though is I've actually, been trying to do this, like even with Nectar and with some different people. I've actually ran into a little resistance. So I'm thinking of doing, and with um, is just maybe we could fill this out really quick and then just kind of put it on. Let's not activate it right now until we get a little further. I don't think it's a next step. It could be a distraction from us getting the funding if we try to like push this until it's ready. Unless we find some people that are super dedicated to it, understand it, are ready. Let's just have it, filled out, but maybe not active. What do you guys think?
Well, yes, and
Uh-huh.
I agree with that, and I also agree that this tech stuff should be prioritized for initial funding, because we probably need to focus on the funding first and then to build out the platforms that we need according to what we need.
Okay, I agree.
Because I'm surprised too that there's not what we need yet
Yeah.
available, or at least semi-available.
Okay, so what I have is, this is what we have, what we want. Let's go through it. What we want is project management, obviously. We want something that we can communicate on, communications. Something that's easy to develop, fundable, co-creative process. We all can help fill in solutions. So this is part of our solutions talks. When we have solutions talks, we can add in tech platforms and have experts come on, talk together about what's needed. Now, this is probably going to want to be done in a private fashion so that, to me, it's like, hey, we could have solutions talks about this out in the open, and then someone else goes and builds it. The problem is we're going to be paying for our solution. We're going to be paying to be a member of it, even though we're the ones creating the solution, because we shoot it out to the world and some big company comes and develops it. And then we have to pay for a membership. You know what I mean? At least we would have the tools we need. It's better than not having them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hey.
Right out of the Open Co-op event, it was very clear that this type of model actually neutralizes the traditional, extractive business models. And most companies who have that type of approach are not going to necessarily target these types of functions. We're doing this as like a commons, we're all contributing to it, we're not using money, we're putting in our time, and that actually, by definition, is something that, extractive businesses aren't interested in. But I could be wrong.
I guess I was just imagining having a talk of experts that we shoot out to the world saying, hey, this would be a perfect platform for everyone. And there's obviously a way to extract within that, is what I was imagining. Now, if we kept it between ourselves, then yeah, you know what I mean? Less public, just within ourselves. And we allowed people to adopt the solutions. If we kept it within our networks and we had people to do that, we still need some kind of platform to do that even. So our goal, let's develop the goal. Here's what I have: a common platform that is co-owned and operated by the New Paradigm Movement altogether. This allows full coherence and adoption. We don't want separation and power struggles within this realm. We want clear access agreements in a membership model that has everyone contributing to the whole. I'll take the negative out. Does anyone else have an intention here when it comes to tech platforms that they would like to see that's not stated here?
Josh, can you link the doc again? Is it somewhere?
This doc?
Yeah.
Fully transparent.
This doc is next steps.
Okay, it's in overview, right?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, thank you. I just have so many folders I got lost.
It's okay.
Part of what I would like to input on that, Josh, is that, what you were just saying about it being an in-house platform. I think if we're developing the platform or having a co-creation of development with whoever is developing the platform, that it probably a shorter term goal would be to just use it in-house to see the efficacy of the platform, and with the long-term goal of the open source to the whole movement. But it doesn't really make sense to jump to like, yeah, we're going to create this platform for the whole entire new paradigm movement, and then it takes longer, and we don't know if it works. Like, we don't know if it's effective. It's kind of to try to create it around the needs of what we're finding that we need.
Just wait till we get funding, you're saying, and then do it. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, I'm saying that maybe we're working towards one a short-term goal and one a long-term goal. So we have two different goals. The short-term goal being initial funding and a platform that is developed in-house to service to be like the test pod, to see if it's effective, what's being built, and to see what works, and to input and to continually co-create it from that space. And then once it's developed enough and it's like, okay, yeah, we got it down, then it goes out to everybody else. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get what you're saying is using it in-house, testing it, and then allowing access. And how I was envisioning that is a membership model, kind of like a joint stakeholder membership model, where we're all a stakeholder in it. No one's profiting off of it. We're paying the developers and paying the people that are helping work on it. Like, if you're working on it, you're either getting paid or you get a free membership or whatever that looks like. And if you're otherwise, you're part of a membership pool somehow or another. And if there's profits made within the platform itself, then it's co-owned. We can have a direction for that through agreements and access, or we can just make it where we split dividends to everyone, and just super simple.
That is a definition of a cooperative business model. So cooperative, and this is not something I just got into, but it's something I've been learning about for a few years, and I still don't know very much. But cooperatives are basically a corporation where the members are the owners. And it's sort of like shareholders, except that there is no fiduciary duty. It's not you do issue shares in cooperatives, but because at the end of the financial year, any profits that remain are divided back among the co-op members, and they're paid out as dividends. Exactly what you're describing, and it's legally already available. There are cooperative experts who can get funding, like grants, to pay for your legal fees to form the cooperative, and then the cooperative can own the copyright to any software platform that's developed by the group. So that might actually be good to look into. People who can give grants to do cooperatives. There's a lot of organizations out there that do that.
Sorry,
Sounds
I joined late,
pretty good.
everyone. Can I just ask what we're talking about?
Hey, Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, everyone. Hi. Yeah, really sorry I was late. Literally, I've been trying to get on the internet all day here in Ireland, and I just cracked it a few minutes ago. So I jumped in and just went quiet and listened. But maybe, Josh, can you just tell me what we're discussing at the moment? I'd be really interested to just catch up.
we got a couple things. We're talking about creating a co-stewarded. I'm going to take this from co-owned to co-stewarded platform. That is a tech platform. So as we move forward, we can all have access to the tools we need. For example, let's say that we tomorrow did a crowdfunding campaign and we pulled on 10,000 landowners. How the hell do we manage those? How the hell do we communicate? You know, like right now it's 2 all over the map. Even with all the platforms that are out there, it's 2 all over the map. So we're talking about being able to create our own platform, and this doesn't mean, and it means for the whole new paradigm, something we can adopt people into really easily, like other new paradigm builders that aren't in it for profit, that aren't in it for extraction. Brett says that maybe I'm thinking maybe between Brett and Tiana that maybe we should wait till we get funding to really focus on this. Like we can get it started right now, but it's really not like, it's a bigger project that like if we focus on the funding, we'll probably, and the structure, then we're going to have everything we need and we can do the tech platform. But we're just going to fill it out anyway for now. And Malia was talking about how it could be a co-op. And then I think Brett's saying something here about, I can't be in conversations about cooperatives and dividend sharing when our work is included, because so can you explain that, Brett?
Basically, the context is I was speaking to my wife Andrea about this. Some of you know her. She's part of the team here. And she asked me about, hey, how's it going with Josh? Like, what's the synergy points? Are we doing the same thing? Is it redundant? Should we be asking Josh to come here? Like, what are you doing? What are you sharing? And all these questions. So she helped me remember or be reminded that I need to be clear as I can that the project we're working on is very, very similar to what is being done here. So I have to be cognizant about redundancy and making sure we're all like, you know, co-creating and synergizing and sharing to the best of our current abilities. So we are on the same team and we don't be redundant, etc. And we leverage each other's pieces. We leverage each other's, you know, what we're here to do on the planet. So what our team is here to do on the planet is to build this platform you're talking about. We're not going to build it ourselves. We're the architects and engineers. We have a framework in progress and a conception of how to have everyone around the world in a slightly open source fashion, you know, be part of developing that, and therefore they would be sharing dividends, as you would say, and they would be co-stewards. Now, we don't have maybe the 100% answer, but we're pretty like adamant and clear about what we are bringing, and we ultimately we're going to need to synergize with Green Earth Vision Full Potential Alliance to a way deeper level. So we're not having this type of conversation. We're just all part of the platform has been decided to be the one we're bringing through, and then it's how can we all make that happen. So I agree that I believe we can put this conversation off so it can just germinate a little bit more. And what I meant was I can't talk about cooperatives and dividends because we're creating something that's completely new paradigm, and it's fucking badass. It's just taking the time it takes. So I would be out of integrity if I join a project full time that's talking about like old paradigm models to accomplish this. I can certainly contribute to a project because I resonate with the intention and all that, but I have to make sure that everyone's aware of what we're doing and where my kind of boundary is on spending time building something that to me would pale in comparison to what I'm already working on building. I hope that makes sense and is fair.
Yeah, Brett, can you please clarify what it is you are working on, like the bullet points that are relevant to this point about not wanting to participate in the cooperative discussion? then maybe a few comments about why a cooperative is two old paradigms for your liking.
Sure. Is that okay with everybody?
Totally. Yeah. And I have something there too, but you might cover it. Go ahead.
Okay. I just want to make sure I'm not taking up all the airtime, so please interrupt when someone wants to reflect or share or change or whatever. The bullet points is we're creating, there's different ways of describing it, like niche marketing, right? Like if I'm trying to just make sure I'm tuning into like your meta story, like, and your backgrounds, like, you know, if I was talking to the integral, you know, a group of integral people, we would maybe describe it one way. If we were talking to new paradigm permaculturists, I might describe it another way. Because I don't do elevator pitches, because this is very special and I don't need to do that, but I do need to communicate. So thank you for asking me the question, and I'm going to do my best. Number one, it's a whole systems platform. So it's not just there to improve or catalyze messaging or profit sharing or communication or project management. It is a platform that will address, because it's holistic, all of these aspects of leading a whole life, especially in the frequency of the new paradigm where we like things about intention and speed and manifestation and synchronicity and timelessness and synergy and co-creation and gift economy, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, it's a whole new internet. It would be like logging onto the internet instead of going to Google and Chrome. You would go to the Infinite World game, which would also be built on Holochain for the most part. And it's backed by what we call thoughtware. So we're not just technologists, we're socio-technologists, we're spiritual technologists. So we've been prototyping like Josh and experimenting with what it means to be in agreements. What does it mean to share intentions? What does it mean to be open source within a membrane? So not open source like Google can come and use it, but what we call hollow sourcing, HOLO, for holonic. Because our system is built on something called holons. It's a holonic database. Holons are wholes and parts simultaneously. Therefore, our entire database is always interconnected and dependent by the very nature of the architecture of the technology. So even if people wanted to use it, let's say incorrectly, at least at bare minimum, the system is built biomimetically and spiritually inspired. So the ground point is something that's pretty groundbreaking for the most part. Along with the framework of the thoughtware, this hollow sourcing is basically, for me, the evolution of what cooperatives do, the evolution of what holacracy is doing, the evolution of what other people are doing in the same spheres of self-organization. So because I've seen that future, because I've experienced it partially and embodied some of it, that's the reason I would say I can't do a cooperative full time as if that's my mission, because I've already seen the grass greener on the other side of the field. If this group of people in this project with Josh happen to need to use a cooperative, I would be more than willing to participate, because I'm not anti-cooperative. I'm just pro what we've been doing. I'm going to stop there and leave room for comments.
Yeah, I just have to reflect back what I'm understanding from you, which is the context that I have for what you just said is that I've been kind of immersed in the anthropology of the Incas, and the way that their economy worked was that they had inventories of everything that existed within the empire, and then where there was scarcity of something, they redistributed it. So there was no sense of like private ownership, and there was no, you didn't charge for that. So like, say there was a guy who had alpacas and he was making ponchos, and then there were people who didn't have ponchos. The government would just be like, hey, those guys need ponchos, and they would like just get somebody to take the ponchos there. There wasn't a thing where it's like, these guys have to pay X amount for their ponchos. It was just redistribution, meeting needs with resources. And so there's like this type of sacred economy where when we have a documentation of of what is there and what is needed, then we can just apply our technology to connect the needs and resources in like a permaculture type of aspect, and it returns us back to an exalted type of society. Is that something that you're aiming at, or is that off base?
That sounds about right to me. What about you, Brett? In a
No,
way.
we definitely need to talk more. It's pretty much exactly what we're doing with a slight variance according to culture, background, passion. But yes, absolutely what we're doing, like on levels.
Yeah, how I see that metaphorically. It's like if everyone's growing bananas and there's 10 bananas left, one person doesn't say, "Oh, they're all mine." You know, it's everyone's. If we're all in this together, and if someone falls out of the boat, you know, you throw them a life vest. You don't say, "Oh, well, they don't have a life vest." You know, we only have 6, but we're in the boat. You know, or we have a couple extra, but they don't own it. It's not their life vest. We throw them the life vest. You know. So yeah, I totally agree with that methodology, Malia. And the problem with the old cooperative models is it's not quite what we have here. We have certain access agreements, and we have certain agreements, things that aren't just based on money. Where none of the old models right now, like Brett said, it's an evolution of holacracy. It's where it's going, and so we're just you know, to keep us on the forefront of that is so the models like Brett has, and maybe that's some of your maybe Brett, that might be where you're coming from, where I don't see, is where you're going, why would we need to integrate with these other platforms when they're not even built on the same, you know, on the same basis or headed towards the same thing? So if that's part of your thought, then I get that. I guess I was thinking that we could have a membership model that just kind of pays for the basic necessities, that we all can kind of go, oh, let's get the top developers in the field that are headed towards the same thing, pull them through the declaration of get them in alignment, and build this together instead of separately. That was my thought.
Great.
I'm just thinking for a sec, Josh.
Yep.
The only thing that came up for me was, generally speaking, yes to what you said, and it's a fine line between integrating / transcending and including from integral work, and then the new one, because I'm synergy obsessed, of transcending and synergizing. And basically integrating cooperative or something like that into our model would not work. But if we transcend and synergize these models, that's when the new thing arises that's unpredictable and different and greater than the sum of those parts, like holacracy and cooperativeness, cooperatives and membership models. But the new thing is what, you know, we're all actually building, i.e. the new paradigm, and us with our socio-technologies. So I'm generally a yes to what you just said in principle, like the values of membership model, you know, the values of cooperativism. So it's just a good both and for me, like a yes and for me.
Cool.
And yes, it is essentially important for me to somehow find a way for you to meet my team personally, so you can share transmissions and we can really get further down the line. But what I've learned from my Synergy Hub experiment since Deanna's here, and our 6-year journey to share with everyone here, and I'm sure it's similar for all of you, is that every time we try to force something, every time we don't trust the bigger picture, it's just like, what the fuck? It's just, we always end up
wasting time.
Yeah, so I am very, very, very excited and proud of the time I've spent with you guys and you, Josh, working through your portal. And I know it's the right thing to do for me and for everybody. And yes, and it will never be complete for me until the next level of the relationship between, like, the Green Earth tribe, let's say, it's all of you on the call, can somehow meet my tribe in person and really get into the deeper stuff, because
In a couple weeks.
for me anyways. Yeah, so it's getting closer. We just had a funding fucking mishap, but that's another story I'll share later. But yes, and as you would say.
just to put my 2 cents in a little bit about that as well, is I feel very strongly about that as well. And I'm in complete resonance with the ability to transcend on a quicker level when we just we stop overthinking what we need to do and kind of know that it's already there and that we just have to meet at a certain space. And I'm feeling very strongly also with my own mission in the fundraising sector that the projects like New Map needs to come as a priority for the funding. Yes, and that yes to the activation centers, yes to the eco villages, yes to all of those things, but a platform like New Map would be instead of us well, I'm not a tech person to begin with, and I won't pretend to be, but instead of us trying to integrate the old models with that is transcending all the way into the new model, if that can happen now or sooner.
Yeah, Tiana,
Leave the space
I
for
want
that.
to address what you said, because that's a concern for me as well. So the project that I'm working on is sort of like a stepping stone in between the world. We need places where people can negotiate their reality. Like if this is a default world, if they can buy, use fiat currency to buy, coffee, and then, that goes into a system which also runs on hollow fuel. And then maybe sometimes when they buy coffee, they're going to use, Ethereum, or they're going to use hollow fuel, or, they're going to start participating in different systems and see that they do have the option to do so when they can afford to. Because I think that what I've seen is very scary for people is this idea that they want to make the leap, but that the chasm is too big and they're scared. And so we have to break it down into like little baby steps where they're like, sometimes I pay using euros and sometimes I pay, and then there's this weird platform that I buy it on and that they take a lot of Bitcoin too. And so, I could change it up and start accustoming people to these other paradigms in a very real material way. And so that's kind of what I'm working on. It's definitely important to have people who are holding that torch and that light of like where we need to be. And I'm like one of those over empathetic people who lets people get away with too much shit. And I acknowledge that. And if you guys see me getting too far in that direction, please give me a slap on the wrist. But I do see the need to have this sort of like, these certain outposts of conceptual exchange, sort of like a Silk Road of ideas and currencies, and have some diversity of belief systems so that we include more people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we're on the same page. I think that let's I think we can come back to the tech platform, and I think we can grab another section today while we're still on the call. We can do the physical buildings or the training. The cool thing about the training is it's not filled in, so we can totally fully co-create that. I'm feeling that would be kind of fun. Do you guys want to do the training?
Can we just have a checkout on that subject, like that energy circle thing you said?
Yes. Yeah.
Where we kind of close the circle?
Yes. Okay. So yes, I'm sorry. I forgot that.
It's okay.
Is there anything else anyone wants to do to complete this in a very focused manner that they can do, that they want to know, that they're not complete on to complete the tech platform? Anything that they can add in here that we can look at later or that needs to be said?
I just want to share an impression that I've got, and the first thing is I know Brett and Tan and some of their team, and I completely trust them and what they're doing. They know infinitely more than I will ever know, I think, about what they're doing. And I think they've got the vision and the technical ability to ground that as well. And I think what we need to do then is to trust them as a team and other people who are doing similar work, and really say, you know, well, what we need is some utility, and trust that that can provide the platform for the utility, and that then is a real good synergistic relationship. So there's a danger in being too prescriptive, I think, and that's just my impression from that conversation about cooperatives and stuff like that, is that if you're too prescriptive, then you can end up tying the hands of the people who are doing the sort of the next step of the work, if you like. So what I'd like to ask is if Brett can maybe have a reflection on the whole conversation and come back and say, you know, what should we be focusing on in terms of where are our parameters, and how does that fit in with what he can and his team can provide. And I think that will make the picture much clearer and much simpler for us, which is, okay, we trust that this bit's going to happen. All we need to do now is to make sure that this bit that we're holding is absolutely clear and driven by the right intention that is just going to slot into that hand in glove, basically. Does that make sense?
Yep, someone has their hand up? I
Yeah,
can't see well.
Sorry, I just had a general comment about, I think it's a reflection of all of our experiences that we've all had. And what I've realized is there's lots of people creating communities around the world, and they all have their own way of wanting to do it. And what people really need is a toolkit where they can select the tools they want to use, not use all of them, not have one prescription for a complete cure, but to allow for this like experimentalism to happen on a community level. So inventing tools that are scalable to the global level is really important, but also customizable tools that allow people to create and play with just the components they're ready for, so they can learn at their own pace instead of having to go through a massive education or relearning thing, because everybody has their own idea for what they want to do. And getting people on board with the same vision that I found a lot of struggle, which is why in my work I changed it to, while it's presented as a single package, they're all modules that you can select from and use for your community, and you can modify and play with and then share and fork and allow for lots of experimentation to happen. When I was working towards like unified model, it actually became really frustrating because we keep discovering new things, and all these different groups working on something, they all have good ideas. And it was, I realized it wasn't something that was possible for at least my team and myself to do. So I think I'm just voicing that a unified model right now is going to be difficult to achieve, and I think that people who are working towards that should continue that work. And also, it's just isn't that we can create modules or tools for people that they can pick and choose which ones they want in kind of like a plug and play fashion, because it's very unlikely you're going to get a lot of people adopting to all one new model, because right now there's a lot of resistance towards big models. And I think that's where the paradigm shift is changing also, is that people don't want to be a part of this giant thing. They want to have small communities that can operate independently. They don't want a unified currency where shit, our community's currency failed. Why? We aren't even a part of the bigger system. Like it's gonna have to be yes and. Like we'll have a community currency, we'll have a global currency, or many different currencies. It's gonna be all these things. So I like the idea of creating that scalable to the entire world. I think that's a great intention to have, and also duplicatable. That might not be scalable. That could be duplicated but not scaled. Those are all appropriate. So
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Cool. Anyone else? Anything to wrap up that sector?
Can I ask Stephen if he can share his model, and if he's looked at the conscious co-creation tools?
Yeah, I'm happy to share with you, Mike. I have a PDF presentation that basically it shares the tools, and you're welcome to use them however you want. It's not ready for a public release. I've taken a break from this work for life, but I've shared with Josh, and I know he's been influenced by it, and I have it shared with all of you to review. And if you have further questions on any of the parts of it, I would love to go into more detail. It's also holonic in nature. I think Brett would agree with a lot of what's presented in it. But yeah, it just became kind of overwhelming to put together the right team and all the people working on that. And so, long answer, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, because I'll be really interested in looking at that.
I'll get your email in like 3 minutes. I'll send it to you right now. And actually, anybody who wants to see it, it's a Google presentation. So just send your email to me, and I will add you to the list right now.
You're also welcome to put it in the declaration chat. Most of us are on this call that have gone through the declaration. That if you're not in that chat, basically I cut the chat down to only the people that had gone through. Everyone else they're not in the chat anymore. So if you put it in the chat room, it'll just go to all of us. That's fine. It's not going to bother anyone.
All right, I'll do that.
Okay, great. Would you guys like to, is everyone else complete on the tech platform area?
Let me just respond to Mike quick, Josh.
Okay.
Mike, I think I'll just touch base with you in a separate call. And maybe we can get some clarity of what you were sharing, which I resonate with, and then put it forth to the group in a sense. I think it would be better than me rattling off about it.
Great, Brett. Yeah, sounds good, Mike. I look forward to it.
Cool.
May I make a suggestion for this section? Because I'm not really feeling complete or a synchronistic resonance. I think we all have a lot of different ideas that are all really valid. So maybe we can just actually document that we're going to create a space to all get really clear on the viewpoint and then come back to it. Because unlike other sections of this where we're all kind of yes, 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 I'm feeling that there's maybe 5 different viewpoints of the direction that we can go with this.
There is.
So maybe to just each individual be able to sit with it, and then we come back.
Yeah, totally.
To it.
That sounds great. And I put get core concepts in sync with NewMap because there is stuff that Brett says he has that he said that's our mission. So when we go down to Mexico and we meet up, we'll go through the whole thing. And maybe we can add to this. This is sort of like a presentation here. And I can see that Brett's added a lot. So yeah, let's all get on the exact same page. And if there are 2 different routes, hey, we'll take 2 different routes. But but let's first try to get on the same page.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right, cool. So I'm complete. Is everyone else?
I just want to add one last thing. Go ahead.
I just want to say I'm just so deeply grateful and resonant with the mission and purpose of the people here. It just feels so good to be working on this with you guys, and I want you guys to all, feel how valuable your work is and your mission and your purpose. I just so much respect for all of you. Thank you so much.
Ditto.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I just want to share that I'm not working on my own thing right now. I am here to be supportive of basically this group in whichever direction. I just want to be a supportive space and offer my whatever abilities I have to contribute. But I don't have attachment over what I've created, and it's valid, but one of many ways of moving forward. So I don't want to be in a leadership role right now. I am still recovering, and I just want to be supportive and offer the tools I have freely for people to use however they want.
You're a recovering leader. Okay.
Yeah. Long story short, I led a group of us into building a community. We invested in everything we had, and the landowner was a con artist, and he basically stole everything we had. So I'm just taking a step down, kind of recovering personally, and giving and just being supportive of other people to share my experience with those things don't happen.
Got it.
Yeah, the ego backlash of the system is pretty brutal sometimes. I also had a scenario where, you know, engaging in this type of work had like a major customer put in an order and then tried to refuse to take it. And I lost a lot of money that way because I couldn't pay back my loan that I used to buy this product. It's just like, you know, they have their old way and their living brain is accustomed to it, and we just have to keep on popping back up, you know.
Talk to me, Malia, soon about the escrow company that I'm signed up with now. That's super, super secure and awesome, and keeps everyone side by side. Okay.
Okay, super.
Yep, I can solve all that. I believe. Okay.
All right. Nice.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Okay.
Josh.
You're welcome. All right. Okay. Moving on. Physical. Would you guys like to do physical headquarters, centers, real estate, or would you like to do the training and education? Any specific burning desires for either part of that? Or what does the expertise on this call for? Or is there anyone that really wants to do one or the other?
I'm interested in real estate because I have real estate.
I was sort of thinking that. Yeah. Okay. Let's do that first then. Okay. So I'm actually gonna start putting what we're working towards first because I feel like it should be covered first. We want to have. Okay. This is what I put. So we're all co-creating what we're working towards with this. This is like. Yeah. Anyway. Whatever. So we want to have not only the land to live on, and work from, and play from, and raise family on, but also have all the other tools we need, such as our governance completed, our tracking systems that help us keep coherence. I'm just going to put et cetera there. So we want to be living there, but we also want to have like flow, right? So we want to have some of these other things done too. We may need to go through some social tests and experiments. This is how I see it. We're working towards a high vibrational lifestyle that we are in flow and not held down by lower energies that would block us from our creative flow and honoring one another. Yeah, so it says we need to change the word training, by the way, because we may need education centers to maintain this energy, or we may need orientation centers.
We could probably use the word enhancement, which could cover anything from training, knowledge, and skill acquirements, and also spiritual awareness increase.
Mm-hmm.
Enhancement.
Coherence hubs. Enhancement centers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Someone go. Was that Tiana or was it?
Yeah, that was me. So I've been going through this for the last 6 years, like inviting community in and then experiencing the crisis, and then the incoherence, and then like, you know, letting it wash away and then starting again. Kind of in the third cycle of that now. And I think that there are some very clear fault lines upon which the community in my location and with my groups or my contingencies tends to fall apart. One of them is definitely men who expect to dominate over women because they have, for example, they can build things and the women can't, or they carry heavy things and the women can't. And like, you know, the physical labor aspect of living on a farm is quite distinct. And I think that we just don't have the facilities for the women to do labor that their bodies are more suited for and still be recognized enough. So, so that's one thing where it's just like, hey guy, like I know that you can build this and I can't, but you still need to give me respect and not try to like use your ability to barter for things that you shouldn't be bartering for, like sexual intercourse. Like that's not okay. And so there's that. And then one of the fault lines where things fall apart is because I live in Hawaii, there's like a post-colonial, highly traumatized community that like 2 generations ago, they were getting heavy beatings and horse whippings because they didn't work fast enough. Like they're virtually slaves. And then like these white kids from California will be like, well, I'm not privileged, I've been poor my whole life. And you're like, no, guy, like just by having white skin, people treat you differently. And I know that you can win the suffering contest if we had a suffering contest, but that's not the point. You still have to honor the situation and repair the situation. It's not, you can't get out of it because your suffering was worse. And so, that's one of the fault lines. And I think, you know, the third fault line ends up being money. Because you're like, hey, she has this farm, she must have enough money to give me anything that I want. And that's actually not true. Having a farm drains your capital, it drains your bank account, and it's exhausting physically. And then you get, you know, and then you pile, you know, on the gender dynamic, and then somebody starts getting angry because they want, you know, material assets or resources, and then it's just like everybody ends up hating each other. And so those are the 3 really dangerous zones that I've been observing.
So I marked those down for you, Malia. This is towards the end of the exercise. It's what could get in the way, possibly roadblock. And so what I wrote is unclear agreements, power struggles, domination tactics, and then I was going to put like value exchange. People who sometimes get unhappy when they go, oh, well, this wasn't worth that. He took this, but I took 5 hours and I didn't get paid. You know, value exchange dynamics.
Yeah. Well, I think that actually going ahead and naming it as like gender issues, like indigenous issues, and
okay.
issues would probably be more clear and accurate, and help address them more directly.
Can I put jealousy in there too?
I think that's a great idea.
Old paradigm energy.
I had a really interesting experience at Open Co-op with the gender dynamic issue, where the community was enlightened enough that when one person did something that was gender biased, like for example, I was the only woman who raised her hand during a Q&A, and the moderator called on like 8 or 9 white men and didn't call on me, and I didn't get to ask a question. So it was like, everyone kind of noticed, and the panel noticed, and then all of a sudden that guy noticed everyone noticing, and he caught himself, and he was just so embarrassed and sorry, and it was like he didn't mean to do it. But if the community isn't like, oh, gender bias is a problem that we want to solve, then that won't happen, you know?
Got it. I've been in a few communities, and I haven't noticed that where I've been, but I can imagine that it happens, especially in the old paradigm. And I really feel like there's some of these, like, I don't think the gender dynamic, I just don't personally see it happening, but maybe it would. But I don't see the value exchange happening with our systems. I don't see the domination tactics happening or the unclear agreements. Jealousy, maybe. Old paradigm energies, maybe. Unclear sexual relationship agreements, maybe, because those are personal agreements that it's going to be hard for us to cover universally. But we could cover them with a space agreement, possibly. Like, for instance, there's a place in Costa Rica called, this is just an example, and I think I've told you this, Malia, before, actually. It's called Sat Yoga Community. And it's a village, but it starts with like this meditation center. And you can either just help at the village or you can actually be a part of it. And if you're a part of the meditation center, your commitment is, I believe it's 3 months or 6 months of celibacy. You don't go into the community and start messing around with people.
Yeah. You know, I don't feel like that has to be the thing. The great discussion that was had at Open Co-op about holochain is that it's based on consent and not consensus. So like I grew up with parents who were basically in an open relationship, and I did not like it. I didn't like how they acted when they were doing it. I didn't like how I was treated as a child being raised in that environment. And so I don't want to practice it. And that's a consent issue. And I think that when people really get down to it, I think that a lot of new paradigms, people take it for granted that that if you're attracted to them, you're going to sleep with them. And it's like, I have other agreements with myself. Consent is primary. And so yeah, I think that it's been complicated to host these discussions. So hosting this discussion with the last group was like, okay, like I just want to, declare openly, like I am not into open relationships. And if my partner says that it's okay with me to sleep with them, they're not telling you the truth, in the future. Like I don't have consent around that. And I would like for everyone to respect my consent, and I respect what you want to do with your sexuality. And that didn't go very well, because people felt like by me saying that, then I was trying to control them. And I don't really know how to deal with that except for more dialogue, hosting more conversations. Or do you guys have suggestions about that?
I do. The process that we do that works most effectively, and part of the energy circle, is to keep focus on the solutions versus the problems. And so how I see this looking, Malia, is this is something that can be covered with our space agreements. So for instance, if it's a rehab center, one agreement would be no drugs and alcohol. But if it was a different place, it might be okay. So what I would propose to you is to create a proposal around what a space agreement would look like that would help maintain that purity, synergy, consent culture, whatever it is you envision as something that works. And then whatever space you're in, whoever agrees to that's going to show up. And if they're not in agreement with it, they're not going to show up.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that the one thing that does really scare me is also when people are unclear about why they're helping. So like if someone is helping me and then in return they expect me to sleep with them, that's really scary because I actually really need their help. So like if you need someone's help to get food or shelter or any of life's necessities, and they're giving it to you, but then later on they make that into a transaction for sex, then that is actually coercion. Like it's really frightening to be in a non-money environment where we're supposed to be exchanging value without money, and then that suddenly becomes a transactional chip. And I think that that's something that is coercive and it's very dangerous.
I view that as at any moment in time, for me, it's like, we're stepping out of the debt culture, first of all. So it's not like, hey, I did this for you, now you have to do this for me. No, it should be very clear. It should be very like, hey, you can exchange something with someone still, but it's not like you're in debt. Tiana, you have to go?
Yeah.
Okay,
I
bye.
have a dentist appointment.
Okay, bye.
Good
Oh,
shiny
have
teeth.
fun.
Thank you.
All right.
It's
Might
only
be more fun than this conversation.
no. Thank you for sharing. I wish I could stay on.
I'm
I
outta
wanted
here.
to chime into that for sure. No. I have to say about that. I don't know if this is the right place, but me and you should probably talk. Anyway, guys, have a great day.
Bye.
Okay.
Okay. So is that okay with you, Malia, that we create proposals around that because it's not
Down for myself also in my to-do list.
good. Okay, great. And I wrote it down here.
And Josh, can I suggest that we? I want to come. I'd like to respond to a couple of those things because I think they're really important, and I think we should go into them at some stage, really quite deeply.
Sure.
I think there is a commonality between the issue of money and women, especially when it comes to men's bad behaviour and its power, very often. And I think this is one of the valuable elements in the conscious co-creation tools, which is that the intention is the overriding factor that pulls people together. And you have a structure and you have a process for discussion and agreement. And I think I'm coming to the conclusion that there's something else which can fit in between the energy circle and the listening circle. And that's something called action learning. And it's already there, but I think it needs to be brought out a little bit more, which is that it's an active, reflective process whereby people have their group task, they have their individual tasks, and the others in the group help someone to actually increase their awareness and their consciousness by A, being supportive, but B, asking questions and helping the individual to come to their greater awareness, reflection, and consciousness. And I think it builds confidence within the individual and within the group as well.
That's great.
And on this, I think that the beauty of that stuff, the conscious co-creation tools and the action learning, is really that there's actually minimal training required. It's just a series of very, very simple agreements that, from time to time has someone either in a chairing role or a supporting role, just helping to bring observation to the group and giving things a little steer. Hey, are we getting off topic or something like that? Where do you think that response came from, or what did you perceive that person actually said? Something like that. And I think that's extremely valuable. So I think that the import of what I'm saying, I think, is that first of all, we should be aiming for something that incorporates a minimal number of very, very simple tools that pretty much anyone can understand and get on top of very quickly. So the training is minimal. Where it gets difficult is the practice, because it's not easy to go through exercises where everyone is showing each other a different mirror and bringing things to their awareness that they need to deal with. And I think that would be really powerful with regards to those issues that Malian brought up, with regards to gender issues, women issues, money issues. And I think actually the beauty is that, what she's really bringing to the table is the fault lines and the invisible fault lines. And this is where we can get the most value from going into things like that and helping people to navigate their way through them. The danger is that if we don't do that, or if we do the opposite, then what happens is we stumble into our own lack of consciousness, our own blind spots, our own black holes, and we end up then wagging fingers at other people and getting upset with them instead of using it as an opportunity for our own reflection. So I don't know if that helps, but that's just what comes to me from what Malian's just mentioned.
Yeah, that's going to be a hard one to encompass, but I would love to hear more, and maybe we can throw that in the training program. But the training program is going to be it's going to be a tough one to do. We're going to probably have a lot of things to input there. Stephen.
Yeah, so I realized I told a lie earlier. I just forgot. So, Mike, you reminded me of, so actually this Friday, I have a community meeting with multiple community leaders for putting together a community around Tantra. Now, there's a variety of different types of Tantra, but there's one group that I've been helping facilitate workshops. And these workshops do everything in a single weekend that you're talking about. And one of the things, Melina, I don't say your name right, yeah, is that any area in which a human need is in a space of scarcity, in today's society becomes transactional, becomes something that you can buy. So sex is one of those things. But by making it abundant, it no longer is an issue. So they teach us like consent culture where people are getting their needs met really quickly. And you have all these healing spaces coming up. It's an incredible methodology that's being used. And I see people transforming very rapidly. And I've been part of this community for 2 years now, community in quotes. But the transformation that people go through, it's very rapid, and it does identify the needs really quickly. And there's so much healing around sex, and then people learning how to negotiate for sex, not in terms of trade, but rather in terms of having needs met and how to be very clear. So I just want to share that I'm exploring that, and that we're going to set up like an experimental community around this, because this is for people who have all kinds of trauma coming in. So not for people who are like ideal candidates for working with, but people who actually need to go through a lot. They go through this healing process together, and you build these really deep connections, relationships with these people, and everybody learns to be a healer and very supportive in the space and how to communicate together. And we did a workshop 2 weeks ago with 36 people total, that's including facilitators, and it was incredible how much growth, how many hard conversations there were, but everybody was just like crying at the end and so happy. And there are these tools available. So I just want to share that as an experiment. That's a community I'm helping to set up.
Yeah, I think I'm so thankful that you feel safe sharing, and I appreciate what you're sharing. I have my own spiritual practice around sexuality, which is a Taoist sexual practice, and it does overlap somewhat with Tantra, but not. It's not really the same type of goal. And I do think that it does address this issue of scarcity around sex, but it's very much a practice of going deeper into a relationship, a monogamous relationship, not necessarily feeling like abundance has to come from many partners, but that it goes with profoundly expanding the relationship with one partner. So those are different goals. It's not necessarily like it's spiritually different, but yeah, I think that it's interesting because I think that the fact that I'm a monogamous type of person tends to make people think that I don't know what's out there. Whereas it's like, I just know way too much about what's out there, and I don't really want to spend my time on it. Like, I want to spend my time on doing things that, change our global institutions, that change our culture so that, on like a larger scale, change the infrastructure of our economy. And that's where I'm really like to spend that.
So to add, I'm also yes, not either or.
That is something that comes up a lot, and it's just sort of like, all the wonderful tantric communities on the Big Island, there's so many of them, and I just don't feel like there's enough for people are like, I'm going to spend my sexual energy creating, a new type of civilization instead of just finding new people to sleep with. I mean, these are, not necessarily mutually exclusive, but I think that sometimes we do fritter away our time.
Okay, well, I feel misunderstood, but I guess it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
It's a yes and. It's either you can be monogamous in this group or you can be polyamorous. Both are completely fine. You're not pressured one way or the other. So, like I said, I'm monogamous. I'm not trying to have more abundance of partners, but rather creating that really deep connection, going further with that partner, which is what my desire is through tantra. Not to, you can you can divide your energy and not have like a very high level. Or you can put all your energy into one person, which I find a lot more benefit.
Cool.
But I think the last point I want to make though is that this becomes a place for connection where there's a partner for everybody out there, but there's so many single women, so many single men that they're just not connecting right, and they don't know how to connect right. They don't have the skills to connect right. And that's where these workshops are useful. It's giving the people the communication skills to appropriately navigate this space so that they can have that connection that they really desire. So they don't know, they treat it like a transaction, or they try and use power or force or whatever they see on TV. And it's simply due to lack of knowledge that I think people are struggling with relationships.
Cool. Mike, do you have anything to say on that?
Yeah, I mean, there's various ways of looking at this. I think the connectivity of Tantra with sex is, one aspect of it, but I think there are other aspects of it. My feeling is that, we're covering some really deep stuff, but we're not really coherent or resonant at the moment in terms of the things that the intention of the call to go through the document.
Real estate.
Okay.
Yeah, my feeling is that perhaps I think we probably need to settle on a stable group. Otherwise, we're liable to keep going through other areas of ground as we find new things to put on the table and stuff like that. And I think we need to have the people together who can go through the whole thing, and then rely on the fact that that's enough in that group to get these particular agreements tucked away. And my feeling is that we'll lose grounding by having to keep going back and covering things and things like that. So, yeah, I think, and partly this is probably the astrological energy as well. We've just had a massive lunar eclipse. And my feeling is you can't, we're pushing. And the universe is giving us a message at the moment, which is we're not flowing. Really, we're raising issues, which is important, but perhaps the time is to reflect on this. So, my feeling is that we're trying to push hard, and we're not making a lot of progress at the moment.
Yeah. And as the energy circle leader, can we come? So that's why I suggested that we just make a proposal for that. And if you want a proposal, Stephen, for different kind of space agreement, and everybody is open to. In fact, I'm going to put a to-do here. To-do is space agreements. So this is real estate space agreements. These go hand in hand, right? So we don't have our space agreements for real estate really set up yet. I can walk people through those, but I think everyone can come up with some on their own. Space agreements, each person comes up with some, especially around sexual relationships. And for this call, if we can allow that, like I said, if you're trying to come up with answers or proposals on a call, it becomes crazy. It's better to have that proposal and then look at that well thought out thing versus high conceptual ideas. So can we all agree to come back to that and wrap up the real estate part?
I'd rather let other people deal with that, Josh, purely because it doesn't resonate with me. My stuff is more to do with groups and things like that, and not about telling groups about which values to adopt and how to deal with them. I think we're going to end up with just, if we're not careful, if we're too prescriptive, we lose diversity.
Yes.
And respect for other people and the way that they want to do things. And my feeling is that we need to be focusing on something more essential than that.
Yeah, I didn't mean everybody has to do it. I put each person who chooses. Thanks for that clarification. Yeah, I wrote it wrong. Okay, so this is what could get in the way. So let's jump back to where we were. Where we're working towards, and I'm going to go over it again. So let's stick on this at a time, and then we'll get to the what could get in the way afterwards. We want to have land to live on, work from, play from, raise family on. We also want to have our other tools, governance, and everything flowing, keeping us coherent. We may need to go through tests and experiments. We're working towards a high vibrational lifestyle in the flow, not held down by lower energies that would block us from our creative flow and honoring one another. We may need, I don't like the word training centers to maintain. I'm just going to change that to education. We may need shared education to maintain shared education to maintain this energy. And then Brett wrote, this stuff reminds me of topic of teams, domains, responsibilities, roles. Synergistic co-creation is different from collaboration and co-creation. I will explain why on call. This is a reminder, please keep here. So Brett, are you still here? Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you want to explain what this means?
Yeah. So when the first part of it, when we were talking about, oh, why do I have an echo? Okay, I'm just going to try again. The echo is bothering me. Right. So that first came up for me when we were saying, is it a training center? Is it a coherence center? Is it a synergistic center? And like how everyone always has an opinion on like marketing and names and concepts and all that. So that's the point. I was like, yeah, this is also where I would have wanted to cross over and talk about teams and roles, because like ultimately, and this is why synergistic co-creation is different than collaboration or the green meme, or even just co-creation as people say it. Like a post Teal from Spiral Dynamics, or a post like whatever the fuck is happening now world, like basically we honor the individual and the group simultaneously. It's all dynamic, and it's all about intention and desire. Speaking to what Malia was talking about for me as well, it's all about clarity of communication and what are people's intentions, what do they need, like, and what are their values and things like that. So like if we had I want to see us have a team that works on like naming and document writing. So we get like advice from people, hey, what do you think we should call it? But at some point there's certain people that go back and have the actual domain, whether it's one person or a bunch of people, to say, this is what we're going to call this thing, for the next 6 months while we prototype it. So that just reminded me and brought up why I'm also interested in getting to the, how do we organize as teams and what are the team governances and stuff like that. So that brought that up for me. And the synergistic co-creation, what I meant was, again, it's not really about collaboration or green, like everyone has a voice. It's a dynamic, what Mike was talking about early, respect for the gifts that only certain people are bringing, trusting them to be leaders in a sense, but then them being, new paradigm leaders, for lack of a better word, and that they truly take advice, they truly receive feedback. So that's what I was talking about there. And it involves consciousness. That's why I meant Malia, with gender things and patriarchy and dominance. Like that synergistic co-creation addresses the emotional alchemy, that we use the word emotional alchemy, necessary for aspirational living like this.
Great. Okay.
I think we need, can I just underline that as well?
Okay.
All right, to sum that up, what I believe we're talking about is we need process, not prescription. We need assistance with process and not prescription. Prescription puts people in boxes. And going to the spiral dynamics that Brett was just talking about, it's very difficult to talk to people who are on 2 or 3 levels higher than you or below you or stuff like that, because you just don't have the common ground. So yeah. And again, what we need is something so simple that it doesn't need to be rocket science, that other people can be included within it. So I think there's a danger in being over prescriptive about what we're doing. We just need simple tools and processes to for people to avoid as many disagreements as possible, to bring disagreements out into the light, and instead of covering them up, and to support people in terms of asking questions, giving them mirrors, and giving them the opportunity to reflect on things that are happening within themselves. So, I think we've got.
Maybe it's not mutually exclusive though. I think Josh's suggestion to create like a space agreement outline is a good jumping off place to have the conversations that need to be had. And I think that, hosting these conversations can be very, very hard work. We're looking at very deep scars, in both genders. I think that, men suffer from a lot of gender-based PTSD that has to do with, socializing them in this toxic masculinity culture. And I guess, that's a lot of work. It's a lot of hard work, and people have to actually want to do it. I've got total respect for your desire to have things be process-based, and at the same time, it's like, I have a farm that I want to open up to people, but I am definitely not going to have people there who make me feel pressured sexually, but I don't want to have sex with. That is just a giant, get out of my home kind of like scenario. So I think that there has to be an agreement, and then, you can bring people along that path of healing, or have conversations that open everyone up. But I think that, fundamentally you can't breach those lines of consent in the community,
Right on.
All right.
That brings up, the lion brings up a good point there. And that's something that I think we need to take a look at in our space agreements. If a person owns a property and then they want the property to be utilized by the group, it may come with additional space agreements that they are requiring for the group. And that will have to be looked at before the group takes on and says, well, are we going to be able to operate in this space? So that's going to be a good point to look at there. So.
Exactly. Respecting the co-creative process, creating a set of space agreements, and seeing who else is attracted to that. And if that's pretty much that simple. I put a lot of what you guys said here in the training, education. So one of the first things in there is, it is healing. It is communication, so these are things that, this is where training goes hand in hand with the land, because we want people, I'm just going to add this in here, people that show up to the land that are, and see the word training, people showed up to the land that are, I'm just going to call it, I think coherent. I'm going to call it, I think that's the best word for it. People showing to the property within the agreement field, within agreement fields, and coherent. Coherent to what we're creating as an energy or a vibe. Creating as a energetic field, or a unified field.
I would rather that just reads as aligned with the intention, because we can't account for other people's coherence, Josh.
Okay.
And people can be coherent in one moment of time, and not coherent at another moment of time. And this is where we need. Here's how I see this. What I think we're looking for is an area of mutuality overlap, which is, here's our intention, that overlaps. Here's our structure, that overlaps. Here's the processes that we agree to adopt, that overlaps. And on that basis, we now have an area of mutuality between members of a community, someone putting land into a community project, etc. And that's just how I see it. And I think the more prescriptive we get, the more difficult it becomes, and the more exclusive we make things in a way. And yeah, there's going to be some differences of alignment at the moment, because people are carrying so much trauma and so many poor experiences from their lives. So they have to be able to modify elements of that as they need. Josh, I'm really sorry about this, and I'm sorry everybody, but I'm going to have to head off now. I was just given a nudge about some food, but if I can make a suggestion before I go, that's what I think is we should, if we can all, I think this is the key that you want to get moved ahead, isn't it, this document, Josh? And what I suggest is that everyone really is encouraged to go and reflect very deeply on the different elements of this document, so that we've given a lot of consideration to things as to, what would I put? What do I think is missing? How would I write this instead? And try and bring that to the table, so that we can find the areas of mutual agreement. And I think it will, that pre-reflection work will be very, very useful in terms of bringing things forward that need to be discussed, and finding easy wins that everyone agrees with that, and we can move ahead through it quickly.
Thank you. I think that's really great advice. So yeah, well, thank you, Mike.
Yeah, sorry folks, I do apologize.
It's okay. Take care, man.
Thank you all. Have a great one. Take care. Bye for now.
Bye, Mike.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And to go along with what Mike said, I just want to show you guys something. So once we hit level 2, I believe Steve, you're in it, and I believe that Tiana and another guy are in level 2, which means they've agreed to an organizational field. Brett's probably really close. We'll probably talk a little bit when we get in person here soon in a couple weeks. But once we get to level 2, and we are understanding how we're working together, which is so important. And you might, okay. I've actually taken, I'm revamping this whole level 2. So you're in a whole nother world at this point. This is working groups, because you've already decided how to work together. So we have a whole nother sector here. It's got a community folder. It's got the specific projects, the fundraising, the governance, the blah, blah, blah. So this is the different projects. I'm still revamping it from an older version, but you go into each one and you'll see that that each one's going to have this little standardized form that allows us to come together as teams and identify ourselves, our name, our email, and get coherence in our groups and start to work together. So this is all ready for us. And so, as he said, let's get this part done really well, so that when we do move into teams, we're doing the next steps together that we all co-created, and it doesn't have to get done later, because it really that creates dissonance and it messes up the coherence, and the process may not even allow. Like when we form teams, we're going to have a last chance. We're going to have one more chance to create a submaster plan for that team, create a culture code for that team, and then gather self-organized teams. So, everyone that's attracted to working with one another, that's attracted to the same vision and next steps, and it's attracted to the same culture code. So the way that they're working together, will be able to form a team. And commitment. So it's like, well, we're going to meet, twice a week or 3 times or whatever the commitment is. It really doesn't matter at this point. We can have multiple teams. We're going to invite, like I said, 30 people in soon, and this is the setup for it right now. Otherwise, they're going to come into an empty room with nothing to do. This gets them up and running fully. All right. Okay, is everyone feeling to complete this?
I think it's really
It's been a while.
exciting. It's a really deep subject, and I appreciate everyone giving me a chance to authentically express myself. Thank you guys.
You're welcome. Oh, yeah, it's important. This is my, and I talked with you about this in private once. This is my biggest thing too, that I'm good at the systems and I'm good at the, all this stuff. But when it comes to those, dynamics of interpersonal relationships, especially sexual, it's something that we're going to have to heal from. I see it as a really big addiction, a really big problem. It's like everyone's addicted to cocaine or something. You know what I mean? It's like we're starting from this place of malfunctioning, and we're trying to gain coherence and honor, and so it's an interesting an area that we're going to have to treat very honoring and very, very serious, because we all have addictions in those areas that can overflow and throw everyone off balance.
And I also think that a lot of what stands in the way of the solution is that society does shame people for their sexuality and for wanting sex and for being sexual beings. And that's the exact opposite of how I was raised. Like, my parents were very sexual people. And so, yeah, I've never been shamed about my sexuality. So I can't relate, you know what I mean? So I guess I have been somewhat, but that's just not the environment that I was raised in. And it was, so I guess, I have a disconnect from the way that most people were conditioned. And it's very difficult to bridge that gap of perspective. But shame is toxic, and people should not be ashamed of wanting sex or being sexual. So I do want to express that and put that in the space, and just maybe ask for help in creating a safe space.
Great. And I felt it, for me personally, before I even had sex, I felt a deep sense of shame for many, many years, just from whatever, society conditioning, I don't know.
Totally. Well, because disconnecting people from that is like how we keep people ignorant about their own power. Pleasure is power. It's your chance to take control of your own emotional state. And I think that, the system thrives on taking away people's power over themselves. So it is a huge component of redemption.
Yeah.
Scenarios that people are dealing with, I think.
And so I think the best thing we can do is we can form space agreements, and then we can also add into the training, which I did, the education, some stuff on that. And it has to do with healing. I mean, it really does. Healing and creating a space where you're not subjecting yourself to future abusive dynamics. That's,
Right.
or self-sabotage. Steve?
Yes, I need to keep going shortly. So before we dive into the next thing, I just wanted to find a good point to exit. I got about 10 minutes at most left.
All right. Let's just get as far as we can for 10 minutes, guys. Let's do this. Let's blast through it with just answers, something that we can write down, nothing else. Okay? Designs for villages. What we have: designs for villages. We have designs for cities. We have designs for education hubs, activation centers, and more. We have many landowners wanting to team up. What else do we have when it comes to our headquarters, our centers, our physical buildings? Does anyone have anything else on our team?
Well, I have a couple of resources for buildings. One of them is two instructors from Yes Tomorrow School want to come and do courses regularly in Hawaii and build composting toilets and cabins. So our website that we put up is hawaiitimberframecourse.com. There's also a Albizia project that's taking the invasive Albizia in Hawaii and using CNC machines to cut them up and turn them into sustainable housing, tiny homes. And I've connected with them. So those are two resources for creating more structures on the farm.
Great. So I put builders, blueprints for buildings, and if you have access to this, you can put anything you want in here.
Yeah,
A link
that is the chat.
if it's appropriate. Is there anything else that we have on our team that specifically? I put landowners wanting to team up, which is true, and I'm not going to list them all here. I'm just going to say that covers a lot. The designs, we got designs. I don't see a lot more than we have. We have funding models, offers for onboarding or co-creating.
Hey, Josh, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Is this something that you and I should talk about more, or is this something I bring up here? I don't know where everybody here. I know there's about 3 of us that are in Austin right now. But I do have access to about an acre of land that we can utilize for this project. We can literally start building. We can start doing things on it. I don't know to what degree you want to do that. That would sort of create us a home base here in Austin.
Yeah.
So
If we're in Austin or discussing Austin, I have access to a few parcels of land. One's 7 acres, one's 15 acres, one's 2 acres. They're all kind of scattered around. I don't know if that's something that we want to do, if we want to focus bigger, but for the Austin group. And I also have a meeting with another group that also is making some on Friday. So if Austin wants to link up and talk about this, we could definitely share that. But the acre actually sounds really good too if you outright own it and you're willing to create the space properly. Because the issue on the other ones is that they would be owned by somebody else, and I'm hesitant to invest in somebody else's property again.
Yeah. I mean, it's all, the agreement field really does take over the ownership model, because you just create, if it's really about the organization, especially if you're paying like a lease option purchase. You have an organized group of people that are in motion, in flow, working together under the same field. If the steward or owner, we're calling them stewards because that's what the true nature of it is, starts changing agreements out everyone else, everyone just goes somewhere else. And we make sure that we're not in debt, so that we're not like, that there's no blood contract debt things, if it's a lease option purchase and they've truly let go of it and it's into the lease, so there's different scenarios. The best scenario is that it's truly the agreement field is the captain. There's no captain. The agreement field is the captain. That's the best scenario. And so this is the process that we can bring them through. And once we're all in there, then the process is, like Mike says, is what we have processes that and it's good to get a temporary, you temporarily come there, you hang out for a few months, and you make sure that it works before you put so much, blood and tears and sweat into it. You hub there, you give an equal exchange, you get your processes down, and it takes, you got to find the most in-line landowner you can. If they're not in line, then yeah, you probably want to look at Stevens, or someone that is totally in line. The more in line, the better. Or if you can get a lease option purchase, which is just about any property. You don't have to be in line. You just say, hey, lease option purchase. Now you have a piece of land. So there's many options. Okay, so what we have, that's with our landowners. Is there anything else that we have in our team? Okay, what we want that someone else has. What I have here is the perfect space willing to host. That's what we want, is like a host. That'd be perfect. Yes, Brett.
Dude, I'm running out of energy, so I need to maybe check out or leave you guys to the rest of this because I'm just I won't be able to add any value. I'm like having trouble listening and stuff. I might need some food. I think I haven't eaten much.
Let's pull it. Would you guys want to continue or put this off till Wednesday?
I mean, we could check out or something. But
It's been 2 hours. I'm jacked up on chai tea. But I've got tons to do today. So, what are you guys feeling? You want to do this on Wednesday? Just get it all finished then? Or?
Sounds good.
Let's do that.
Can we just do a checkout, like last statement from people?
Yes.
Cool.
Do that.
All right. Well, I guess I'll go first then, since I suggested it.
Yeah.
So I resonate really deeply with that this work we're doing now is like what's in the way is the way. Like refining this with a small group of people, Josh, like the anchor circle I mentioned from Holacracy. It's like that level of consistency and commitment, even though it's different for us in different ways, it still creates a vortex. Like when a few people are there to like anchor something. So getting this stuff right now that you want us all to be aligned on, like the agreement field, means we actually do need to co-create the statements and the stuff, which you've always been open to, which is why I'm here. But it's just becoming more apparent to me that a few people like working hard to refine this and holding space until the larger thing can fractal out is super important. So I'm really pleased with the call today, like, and where it's gone and the openness from you and from everybody. So I'm actually super, super excited. I'm complete. And Steven, fuck yeah, man, all that part, we got to get into that conversation someday with the land and all that.
For sure.
Is that for Stephen Jenner or Steve Black?
No, Steve is
Steve
just
Jenner.
talking about the parcels of land.
Yes.
So the ones I'm talking about, I wouldn't be too excited about them in truth. I think we can find better. So it's just an option in Austin, but there's lots of options all over. But Steve Jenner, or Stephen Jenner, he said he has an acre, and that might be safer. I guess I'll continue going. You finished, Brett? Have you heard? Are you
Yeah,
sure?
I'm complete, man.
Okay.
Yep.
I have like other plans of things we can share also. I've shown this stuff to Josh before, but I was designing basically a modular city that could be moved. So it could be scaled and actually relocated and stuff instead of the traditional way of building where you clear the land and build it up. The idea was to go find damaged land, restore the land, then move away. So you leave the land better than you found it. But I'm good. Nothing else to say. So, goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.
Hi.
Yeah.
All right. Stephen Jenner says his sound is out, so he won't be able to give us the completion statement, unless it comes back on. Yeah, I feel really good. I feel like I'm gaining coherence every day. I feel like it's weird. I have this, like, maybe I'm delusional, but like I really have been paying attention to like what's eating up my time and my focus, and how many other things that can get in the way of like the real work. Like I wrote the master plan out, like master plan the other day for a specific piece of land, which is such, it's like I can talk about it. I've been talking about the master plan, da da da. It's like just doing it. Like I'm at that point where it's like just to do things is and get rid of all the distractions, to me, is like so rewarding. So these calls are a part of that. So thank you all for showing up, and I'm looking forward to setting the time aside Wednesday to complete.
Yeah, I think it's exciting. This is becoming reality instead of like default world, you know? You're like, oh, what did, Jeff Bezos do today? Who cares? You know, I've got this group and we can talk about the new paradigm of what's going to happen in the, like, regenerating land, regenerating relationships. And I think it's going to be so much more valuable than you could, share on the stock market. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Look forward to next Wednesday's call. We might even have one of you guys, if you want, take over the facilitator role, and we can kind of start to edge some other people into that seat. I think it'll be fun.
Rock and roll.
I'll jump in. I've been wanting to jump in for a while. You keep bringing it up, and I'll jump in, Josh.
As facilitate?
Yeah, you have to train me. You have to instruct me. Don't let me go fire.
All right, Stephen, you want to do any last words before you're signing off?
I have a question for Stephen. I missed part of what he said there when my sound went out. Could I just ask for just a real quick update on that conversation with the land that we was mentioning?
Oh, I was saying I do have land. People are interested in doing stuff on it, but I really don't think it's the ideal. I think the ideal is, while I have more, the way it would be used would be more temporary. So if we were using it for temporary structures, that would be very fine. So I should mention another project I have then. And it's called Modular Vans. So we're designing modular furniture, very lightweight, simple living, so you can rapidly deploy a community anywhere. And so it's like building a van life. It's called caravan life. So you can travel around. You have all the tools for sustainability wherever you go. And it gets over the need for owning land. Right now, a lot of communities are restricted because they don't own land. Well, what if you can just travel anywhere and you have your food with you, you have your energy with you, you have your waste management with you? That's kind of the solution that we're providing. And so I have access to be appropriate for that, because it doesn't really matter if the landowner turns their mind to just let them go, unlike building structures on the land. So, but that can be done on some of an acre for right now, depending on where it is. So location is the bigger issue, and they're not located in convenient spots relative to people who work in Austin.
Okay, thank you.
Any last reflections, Stephen Jenner, on just any last whatever words where you're at?
No, it all looks good. I think we got a lot more done today than we did in the last few meetings. So, product-wise, value-wise, what we covered, and we even had a chance to go into a lot of detail, and I think that was really good. So.
Yeah, it's all important. It's those unseen little subtle things that can kind of bite us in the butt later. So, right on, guys. Okay, aho. We'll see you guys on Wednesday.
All right.
All right. See you later.
Yeah.
Nice talking to all of you.
Bye, guys.
Take care, everyone.